Everywhere you go on ESPN690.com. ESPN690, a Cox Media Group station.
This is SportsCenter.
Hello there. I'm Mark Robbins. Saturday night, the Indianapolis Colts ran over the Patriots, snapping the Pats' 7-game winning streak, 27-17. Colts rushing for 226 yards. Carson Wentz only threw for 57. Wentz afterwards saying, no big whoop. The win is what they always are shooting for.
Nah, I mean, there's about 11 guys up, and everyone in the building knew we were running that ball. But when you got the best running back in the league, he's able to, and I think he made 2 guys miss in the hole, that's just JT being JT. And taking it to the house, no one's going to catch him. And so just our ability to run the ball today, even though it was sloppy and ugly at times, for us to finish like that, for JT to break that one off, that was huge. And that's what it's going to take some time.
That's Colts quarterback Carson Wentz. Wondering about Lamar Jackson playing for Baltimore today against Green Bay? He's listed as questionable. ESPN's Adam Schefter says Arizona running back James Conner is expected to play at Detroit against the Lions. He's dealing with an ankle injury. In the NBA, Anthony Davis of the Lakers is going to miss at least 4 weeks. He's got an MCL sprain in his left knee. That happened Friday night in the loss to Minnesota. On the court, the Nets still shorthanded, only 8 players in uniform due to COVID-19. And with the game at home, Kyrie Irving can't help, not vaccinated, can't play in New York City. Brooklyn loses to Orlando 193. College ball, number 1 Baylor rallies in the second half to win at Oregon 78-70. And number 5 Gonzaga over number 25 Texas Tech.
We're back Monday, and the Patriots look to keep pace with the Chiefs in the AFC. So can anyone join them in the conversation for best in the conference? Titans, or maybe the Bills? That's Monday morning on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max on ESPN Radio.
This is the best week ever with Peter Burns and Katie George on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app.
You don't have to visit Buffalo to get fresh, delicious, mouth-watering wings made to order. Just go to the Extreme Wings nearest you. Extreme Wings is where the locals have been going for the freshest, never-frozen, world-famous hot wings since 1999. Dozens of flavors to choose from. Full liquor bar, happy hour specials, state-of-the-art TVs on every wall. After the game, after work, for lunch, for dinner. Make it extreme. Check out their award-winning Pit Road wings. Oh, they're so good. They are grilled to perfection with extremely secret seasoning. Looking for a family-friendly sports restaurant that can accommodate large parties? Well, look no further. You can take the entire team to Extreme Wings after the game, where all kids' meals are just $6.99. Come celebrate the grand opening of Extreme Wings' newest location. That's Roosevelt Boulevard near NAS Jax. Extreme burgers, salads, wraps, and of course, world-famous Extreme Wings. Do what the locals do and make it extreme. Extreme Wings, newest location on Roosevelt Boulevard near NAS Jax, or visit a location near you.
This is ESPN 690 Game Day Live, sponsored by the DUUUVAL House. Here's your host live from the DUUUVAL House, Brent Martineau.
Well, Merry Christmas week, everybody. Hope you got your shopping done, and now you can sit back and watch a little football like every day up until Christmas. Because of the new schedule revamped around the NFL due to the latest in the COVID-19 world. So we got this one here today outside the bank. Here I am once again, ESPN 690, Game Day Live from the DUUUVAL House. Just 2 more times here in 2021. Actually, last time in 2021. We'll do another one early 2022. But this season, and we are right at the foot of the Hart Bridge. Come on out to Teal House. Be a part of the party all afternoon long. We'll be with you until 11 o'clock, and then we go inside for countdown to kickoff. What a wild week it's been in Jacksonville, and the post-Urban Meyer era begins today against the Houston Texans. We've got a little weather to keep an eye on. Actually, beautiful temperatures, very comfortable for December, especially if the sun stays away like it is right now, but hopefully the rain stays away as well. Brent Martineau along with Casey Kurtz on a Sunday morning, and good Sunday morning. You don't have much Christmas shopping to do, so you don't even have to be stressed out about that, Casey.
No stress, just chilling, Brent. Just chilling.
Just chilling. Well, there's no such thing as chilling in Jacksonville around this time of year because you usually have something going on from a news standpoint. I just saw this on my Facebook page recently, actually yesterday, and so I saved it. A couple of years ago, Tom Coughlin got fired on this weekend.
Ooh.
5 years ago, Gus Bradley got fired on this weekend.
Oh, boy.
And, well, maybe not the weekend, but the week, Urban Meyer now gets fired for the Jacksonville Jaguars. It is the story of the week. It is, well, now one of the stories of the year. And it's not just a Jacksonville story. It's been a national story. Urban Meyer is a hot-button guy. He is a lightning rod. He is much maligned by many. And now he's much maligned by many here, at least if you're a Jaguars fan, because it did not work out. How did it get so bad in Jacksonville so quickly? What else will we find out? What are the resolutions? Does he get paid? Will he not get paid? What else will we learn over these next couple of days and couple of weeks? And how will the football team react now that Darrell Bevell is the interim head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars? And maybe most importantly, how will Trevor Lawrence play these final 4 games? Maybe he gets to breathe a little bit. If there's one guy that's had to wear what's going on a little bit more than others because he's out in front of the media and talking on that podium a couple times a week, it is Trevor Lawrence. There's already enough on his shoulders. So does he get a chance to just breathe a little bit and then just go play football? Now, we haven't seen it yet, so I think it's a little bit pie in the sky, a little blind faith, and a little hope to say, all right, maybe he'll go play well now. He's played okay at times, but has he really played well yet in 2021? I think it's fair to say he really hasn't, and he's coming off a 4-interception game against the Tennessee Titans. He's coming off a shutout, the Jags shutout for the first time since 2009. So that being said, Casey Kurtz, I feel like there's a lot to play for here today. It's a draft pick spot, yet that's secondary. I feel like around Jacksonville, a win would do a lot. I think a lot of people think the Jags are going to win this game. Houston is not very good. But I also think for the quarterback, it's an important game from a narrative standpoint. We get wrapped up in these things, and Davis Mills is a rookie quarterback that, let's be honest, I'm not sure he's the future of the Houston Texans franchise. He's also played better than Trevor at times. He's had a couple of games where it's like, hey, that's pretty good. And most of that's been unexpected. But then Trevor goes against Zach Wilson and Mac Jones the next couple of weeks as well. So draft pick is certainly something we'll talk about. But I think there's a lot more at stake here today against the Houston Texans.
Yeah, and just when I thought we were going to be able to talk about the draft, like the actual picks, but, of course, there had to be something that happened in Jacksonville. But, yeah, to your point, obviously, they didn't beat Houston the first time around, but Trevor Lawrence threw for over 300 yards, which is something now that we can only dream about since the last couple have been barely over 200. He did throw the interceptions, but he did throw the touchdowns. So, like you said, he hasn't played great, but we did early in the season against this same defense. We saw it a little bit. Obviously, he was in a bad spot. He threw the ball like 50 times in his first start. It's not what you want. So if you can figure out a way to maybe do that, but in a smaller sample size, run the football as well. But, yeah, there is a lot to play for, and I feel like it's a trap, Brent, but I feel that they're going to win this game solely on what has happened this week and how they're going to bounce back and how they're going to react. And you're really going to find out how they felt about Urban Meyer because you'll be able to see it on the field. And we talked about it, obviously, from 3 to 6 every day this week. And then after us, I caught this on the way home. Mike Golick Jr. on Canty and Golick Jr. right after us said he would take the Jags by any amount of points.
I heard that too. And I almost wonder, are we overplaying this? Like, why do we all feel this way? I mean, I've been a Sunshine and Rainbows guy. I'll find ways for the Jags to win. So this is not just me. Like, this is everybody. You just said, I heard the same thing you did, by the way. And I think he said, Jags by anything. I think someone said Jags by 1,000,000, Jags by 1,000, and then Jags by any amount of number. I mean, why do we feel that way? In fact, Urban Meyer got fired, and the line moved from 3.5, the Jags being a favorite, which also you could say, Vegas, are you sure?
Right.
And moved to, I think it's a 5-point favorite now. I'm not sure if that's even moved more. But Urban Meyer got fired, and the line moved 1.5 points in the Jags' favor. I get the bump. We see it sometimes. But remember, this was a midnight move on Wednesday night into Thursday. The Jags, they're in the middle of planning. Why aren't we considering this more of a distraction than we're considering it a sigh of relief? And we're not the only ones that feel that way. Everybody kind of believes. In fact, I saw some picks last night, and I think 3 out of the 4 people picked the Jags. I mean, how often does that happen? Again, I get Houston's not good. I mean, they're really not good, and they're not trying. It doesn't appear to be very good. But the Jags have been miserable, man. I mean, listen, you're still going to try to get to 20 points in the league. They can't. Like, they cannot. And the guy that was calling the plays and running the offense, and I know Urban Meyer had a part in it, he's the head coach now. So, like, why do we all feel this way, I think is a fair question. But we're not alone is the point. Everybody feels like the Jags are just going to run Houston out of here because Urban Meyer got fired.
Yeah, it's such a strange thing, and obviously I think you're only going to have this. I think the narrative would be a bit different if you were playing maybe anybody else but the Texans. Like if the schedule was a little different and you were playing the Patriots right now, not a chance. Colts, again, not a chance, but I think it's a perfect storm type thing, and I think it may end up being the actual truth, but a lot of people outside of our show and just Jacksonville in general want to pin a lot of what the struggles are for this team on Urban Meyer. And I think now that Urban Meyer's not here, it's going to be easy for them to say, okay, now they're going to be better, which very, very could be true. We're going to find out here shortly in a couple of hours, but I think that plays in. If you want to blame Urban Meyer for what happened, then it's easy to pick the Jags, and now the Jags have to respond and prove those people either right or wrong.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. Again, I get the sense that it's free and easy. Here's another thing we don't know. Is everybody in that locker room, and I've heard mixed reviews and thoughts on this, and again, the locker room's a weird place for us now, but I've heard mixed reviews on whether everybody in that locker room's even excited about Bevel being the guy. I mean, you did give the reins over to a guy that they can't even score more than a touchdown a game. I mean, did that say, oh, yeah? Or is this just anything but Urban?
Yeah.
I mean, did we really get to the point where it's anything but Urban? And while the fans did, I remind everybody, what were they thinking in the building? Did everybody not like Urban? He referenced Smoot. We're going to talk about Urban's comments. And I found that interesting because if you remember coming off the field at halftime, I think there's a shot of Smoot putting his arm around Urban, walking off the field, going into halftime in Nashville. And so it gives, like, not everybody hated Urban in that building is my guess. But there is this overall feel that it's like anybody but Urban.
Yeah, for sure. And I think to your point about Darrell Bevell, I remember the first, I don't even think we really talked about this, but the first report I saw, and again, factual or not, who knows at this point because Darrell Bevell's the head coach, but Charlie Strong was the name I saw a bunch as who would take over. I don't know how true that is, but yeah, to your point, and I said this on Friday, Darrell Bevell has the opportunity of a lifetime in terms of everybody in the city, including you threw footballs at the guy. Well, you didn't throw them at him, but you tossed them to him. Everyone has complained that James Robinson hasn't got the football enough, and we think that's on Darrell Bevell. And if you're Darrell Bevell, you have to sit there and think, now granted, he hasn't ran the ball a lot when he's had the opportunity, but you could change the whole narrative about you by giving him the ball 25 times against a Texans defense that can't stop the run. And I just think, how do you not do that if you're Darrell Bevell? You have an opportunity here to get back in the good graces. You can become the hero of the city by just literally calling run plays. So we'll see how that plays out. I don't know if it'll happen, but, man, just do it.
Yeah, against a Houston team that's very average at the best in every department, So I would say the energy should be a little bit better. Listen, the energy in the building's not going to be unbelievable. I think we might see I hate to even say a decent crowd. I don't know what a decent crowd anymore is. Houston's not going to bring anybody. There's no excitement there. So I wonder if more people come downtown. The threat of rain's not helping the folks that put on the game day operations and want to see some more people in there. But I don't know. I don't even know if we get a bump. I think people are excited to see this game and curious to see this game. I think a lot of them will watch on CBS 47. So I'm not sure where the energy is going to come from. And is it so manufactured and just like, do they really get it done? Here's what I buy into. I think this team will be way more focused than it's been. I mean, there's just been this circus atmosphere going on over the last few weeks. And to your point, if Darrell Bevell does not give it to James Robinson, we're going to talk about this more. Maybe we'll talk about it right now. If he does not give it to James Robinson more, then he's dumb.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, I don't. He's not a dumb guy, okay? He's a very smart guy. But listen, I don't know who doesn't like James Robinson. We all think this was all Urban, and he admitted to it that it was his call, and then they had miscommunication, and finally admitted to it. If he had done that day one after he benched him against the Falcons, he wouldn't have had a 2-week story. And quite frankly, if he didn't have a 2-week story and then it didn't lead to all this other inquiry and other things happening, he might still be the coach. He really might.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows if that those circle of events continue to happen. But this was a one on top of another type of thing. And, I mean, Darrell Bevell, as he gets to the stadium this morning, as he puts together his plan this week, I mean, this is easy, man. This is easy. Just if you want to win over the fans, if you want to win over the owner, at least for a day, give it to number 25. Because what was asinine about the whole thing is for 2 weeks, James Robinson gets benched, 16 plays, benched 20 plays, and then we all talk about it. James talks about it on Jags Report Live. His teammates, including Trevor Lawrence, talk about it. He has a meeting with Urban Meyer, and then they go give it to him 6 times against Tennessee in a 10-point game, most of that football game. So Darrell Bevell could have done that,
Right.
And he didn't. And I can't believe that this is all Urban Meyer. For whatever reason, we have found out Darrell Bevell sometimes doesn't like to run the football. And by the way, that started back in week 1 against the Texans. And yes, they did get the doors blown off them. And yes, it was a little crazy in the first half and out of control. But James Robinson in that football game got 5 carries. And the rookie quarterback who you built this thing around and you said you got to run the football and you got to make it easy on him and it's all about him, you dropped him back 51 times in that game. And I know a lot of it was garbage time, but you dropped him back in 51 times and you handed it to your best player 5. I mean, that started with Darrell Bevell and Urban Meyer and whoever you want to blame back in week 1. And so here we are against Houston and they've got a chance. I mean, I think you did say it. I think it's probably the most underrated story of the week, because of everything else that's gone on, is I don't know if we complained about just the 6 carries last week against Tennessee enough. Like, I really don't. I mean, how can you talk about it for weeks and then give it to them 6 times? And it just does not make sense to me. And again, I will say, I know they've lost 20-0. That was a 10-0 game, I think, for like 35, 40 minutes. And he got 6 carries. So, yeah, you said it, Casey. I mean, it's really easy today for Darrell Bevell. At the very least, he might not win a football game, but at least he could warm the hearts of some fans.
Yeah.
If he just gives the guy the damn ball.
Yeah, and I mean, look, it's Christmas time. You know what I'm saying? All we need is a little warm in the heart. But look, if you're looking at the Texans, and yeah, so the first game of the season, if for some reason, I don't know. I don't know if I should give him the benefit of the doubt, but I'm going to say it. If you decided that, all right, we need to see what James Robinson can do, obviously Urban wasn't sold on him. We definitely know that now. Look at last week what happened to the Texans. Rashad Penny, of all people, no disrespect to Rashad Penny, he went for 16. They gave him the ball 16 times, 137 yards, 2 touchdowns. He averaged 8.6 yards a carry. So, let alone, no matter what you think of James Robinson, Rashad Penny is the definition of any other running back. And again, no disrespect. But James Robinson's better than Rashad Penny. So if you saw what he did last week against this Texans defense, give James Robinson, even if it's only 16 times, what an upgrade that would be. So give it to him 16 times, see what happens. He's going to put up similar numbers because he's a good football player. But yeah, to your point, please, I just need something to feel good about, Brent. And honestly, if you go back even to the Rams game, what was it at half? 13? It was a closer game at half, 13-7.
It was, yeah.
Sounds right. And you weren't running the football. And obviously James was benched, part of that. But even Carlos Hyde, you weren't running the ball. We talked about it a lot, that sequence at nearly midfield. But that's 2 weeks in a row where your defense has had you in the game in the first half against teams that are better than you. Obviously, the Titans were injured a little bit. But you've had that opportunity twice. You just saw what happened against Seattle with the Texans. You have to come out. You have to run the football with whoever, but mostly James Robinson.
And by the way, I think it was 16-7 in the Rams, but
okay,
it doesn't matter much. But your point's right on. I think there's 2 things also that will play into Darrell Bevell having the easiest job in America today. Well, there's really 3. One is everybody's happy around here. Like, they're 2-11 in December, and people are happy that Darrell Bevell's calling the plays or the guy on the sideline today instead of Urban Meyer. The other thing is, here's why you have to also run the football. You might get some weather, and so it might be easy to say, all right, we're not going to throw it all. By the way, it's pretty windy down here today. I don't know if it will feel like that in the building, inside the stadium. It's always a little hard to tell because of the way obviously the stadium's built, and so what does it feel like on the field? But then the other part of this is you got to be careful with the football. Trevor had 4 turnovers last week, and he had gone quite a ways without turning the football over. But Houston, it's the one thing they do well.
Yeah.
The one thing they do well, and really it's almost inexplicable that they're 2-11 based on the amount of turnovers they force.
Yeah.
They did it back in the preseason. I don't know where they are right now, Casey, in terms of the league. But I remember last time we did this a couple weeks back, they were like top 3 or top 5 in the NFL in forced turnovers. And, I mean, it's a weird thing. But they know how to get turnovers. In fact, they just beat the Tennessee Titans a couple weeks ago because Tannehill threw 4 interceptions and they also forced a fumble. So they had 5 turnovers in that game. So it's the only thing that should scare you about Houston is that they really can force turnovers. So I would say run the football and don't put the ball in your young quarterback's hands 45 times today, especially a game after he threw it 4 times to the other team in a game where you could get some weather and wind and other things. So I think we're dead on here. This is the easiest interim game of all time. Maybe.
Brent, I'm starting to think you might be able to coach it at this point.
Yeah,
dive left, dive right, power right, do something.
Yeah, I mean, run some jet sweeps, have some fun with it. I mean, it's a crazy thing because around here, like fun offense, we think of throwing the football, and I think Bevel wants to have that sometimes, right? He wants to throw it. He wants to be fun. Well, their receivers play is poor. Their quarterback's young. He really hasn't got on track yet. And they could bring the fun back a little bit, at least for a week, if they just run the football. And you can be creative in spots, and you're going to throw it here and there. They've been better on third downs, but maybe coming down to the field level will help a little bit too. Because Darrell Bevel has been up in the box. He's not comfortable up there. He kind of indicated this week, and he's been there all season, which, again, is like stupidity on Urban Meyer's part or the Jags' part or whatever, that they didn't at least try, like, to defibrillate this offense by bringing him down or something. Like, do something different instead of score 1 touchdown every game. But maybe being down on the field also makes him see things a little bit different and feel part of it. We'll see. All right, let's take a break. Our first one of the day, ESPN 690 Game Day live from the DUUUVAL House, brought to you by Phillips & Hunt and Folio Weekly 2.0 here on Christmas week. A lot to talk about, right? I mean, just gave you a little bit of everything, but now we dive back into the Urban Meyer stuff, and it's a big deal. And he's reacting. And what does that say? And how does this end? Is it over, or do we have a lot more drama? Are we going to see a lot more leaks? I can't imagine this is it, right? We're going to see and hear things over the next couple of days, weeks, and some odd. So we will see, and we will discuss, and we will find out how this football team reacts. I actually think it's a big 4-game stretch for the Jags. And when I say the Jags, I really mean Trevor Lawrence. I think it's a big 4 games for him, potentially. Season is over. It's not going to be a good rookie season, but it has a chance to kind of get jump-started a little bit today and over these next few weeks in the final month of the season. We'll be back. We're live right outside the stadium on a Sunday.
What's up? It's Casey. Check out the podcast Action Sports Jacks on ESPN690 wherever you get your podcast to make sure you don't miss moments like this.
Or did you have a new nickname around this place?
Sure do, Brent. Because you know
Or do
how
you like it? Nicknames are good sometimes.
Yeah. Well, so you know, like how when it's your birthday coming up, which it's my birthday month or whatever, like they kind of give you a little heads up. And I appreciate all the work that they do and everything. But when they say November birthdays and it's Austin Lane and this must be Thanksgiving themed, AKA free range hot buns. you guys like that? Is that good for you?
Now, the First Alert forecast on ESPN 690.
Today, mostly cloudy with scattered showers ahead of our next cold front. Temperatures stay mild, though, in the mid-70s. An early shower likely tonight with mostly cloudy skies. Temperatures will fall into the mid-50s, but expect a cloudy, breezy, and cooler day on Monday. Highs will be in the low 60s with increasing showers later in the day. I'm meteorologist Alyssa Pedjick, and that's your Action News Jax First Alert forecast.
The Weather Center is brought to you by Beards Diamonds, where the anniversary sale's been extended through Christmas Eve. Save up to 41% store-wide.
Looking for a great career that can take you places? The Jacksonville Transportation Authority offers miles of opportunity, and the JTA is now hiring bus operators. We offer competitive pay and benefits with a starting wage of $16.43 per hour. We're offering hiring bonuses from $10,000 to $15,000. CDL training is available, and JTA will pay for relocation to Florida. And the Sunshine State has no income tax, so your paycheck goes further. Stop looking for a job. Get yourself a new career with the JTA.
Tobacco-Free Florida knows how hard it is to quit nicotine, which is why we offer different quit options to choose from for free, like 24/7 quit coaches available over the phone and free 2-week starter kits of quit aids. We're even experimenting with 80s pop music.
I'm giving you up, giving you up, giving you up. I'm letting you never come back to smoke. I'll never come back, never come back to smoke. I'll never come back. I'm giving you up.
Or maybe we'll just stick to the ways we know work. Visit tobaccofreeflorida.com or call 1-877-YOU-CAN-NOW for free nicotine patches.
Firefighters, paramedics, police officers, they take care of us, and at AMCO, we're proud to take care of them. For over 60 years, we've repaired and maintained the most critical public service vehicles. As an essential business, we work on every kind of car repair with flexible financing and extra safety precautions. Essential, reliable, trusted. That's the men and women who are there for us, and it's our honor to be there for them. AA MCO.
Money tight? We can finance almost anybody. Find the AMCO transmissions nearest you at amcojacksonville.com.
Wake Forest and Texas A&M face off in Jacksonville at the 77th Tax Slayer Gator Bowl game on New Year's Eve. Game day starts early with pregame brunches beginning at 9 a.m., a special tribute to healthcare heroes in the pregame show, and kickoff at 11 a.m. on Bill Gay grounds at TIAA Bank Field. Don't miss college football pageantry on display. It's all happening on New Year's Eve at the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl. Game tickets and hospitality packages start at $50 and are on sale at TaxSlayerGatorBowl.com.
In today's world, there's a lot of ways to know what's happening. At Action News Jax, we make sure our local stories have more detail, so you get every angle that impacts you. We dig for answers because you deserve the whole story. Taking time to provide context so you're clear on what's really going on. Because we know information is thrown at you 24/7, and we want you to know that Action News Jax is local coverage you can count on.
Once-in-a-lifetime savings.
During the holidays?
It's never been done before.
Beards Diamond's incredible 41st anniversary sale.
Everything store-wide is on sale up to an unbelievable 41% off.
But it's only happening until Christmas Eve. If you're popping the question this Christmas or celebrating a big anniversary,
you do not want to miss this once-in-a-lifetime sale.
Beards Diamonds always has the largest inventory in North Florida. But now there's even more.
Designers have sent their best stuff, especially for this sale.
Loose diamonds, mounted diamonds, diamond earrings, necklaces, and more.
All on sale up to 41% off.
Beards Diamonds has been family owned and operated in Jacksonville for over 41 years. And to say thank you, they're discounting everything in the store up to 41% off.
A sale so big, it's never been done before because Beards Diamonds will never be beat on price.
Beards Diamonds 41st anniversary sale going on now till December 24th.
At the St. John's Town Center or at beardsdiamonds.com.
Hey, it's Brent Mortno from Action Sports Jacks. Did you know you can watch our radio show? Yeah, video of a radio show. Just search ESPN 690 Jacks on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Or follow me on Twitter at Brent A.S. Jacks. Watch the show live weekdays from 3 p.m. until 6 p.m. or listen on ESPN 690.
The first thing I'll say about all this is just I respect Coach Meyer. I really appreciate everything he's done for me. You know, he's one of the main reasons I'm here. He drafted me. So that'll always be there, and I wish him nothing but the best. Obviously, it didn't work out here. Some changes had to be made, but you know, as far as coach and his future, I wish him nothing but the best. And
well, that is Trevor Lawrence this week. And listen, the feel here, and I don't want to put words in Trevor's mouth, but I think it's pretty crystal clear that this isn't a move that is stunning or frowned upon by the franchise quarterback. I believe, and again, this kind of gets probably into a little bit too personally for even Trevor and others, but I just think the value, I don't see the match, you know? Like when you talk about quarterbacks and coaches, not that everybody has to like feel the same way, believe in the same stuff, do the same, but there's a connection sometimes. I felt like all along this was a manufactured connection on the part of Urban especially, and quite frankly, Trevor had no choice, you know? Right. It's not like he picked the quarterback, the coach. And so, like, you look at him and Dabo, and you can see the connection. And quite honestly, I feel like they're really tight and close over those 3 years, but I just feel like they're more aligned in who they are and everything. And I don't get that sense with Urban. I just think their value system is different.
A little bit.
I think their transparency is different. I think, again, this is very outside looking in view, and it's a kind of a different view and kind of a dangerous view, really, because you don't know these people as well as sometimes you think you do.
Sure.
I can just tell you this, and I continue to say this, is welcome everybody back. ESPN 690 Game Day Live from the DUUUVAL House. Why do I have a little bit of this? Well, first of all, I'm looking at it. I see it. We cover it every day. But I'll take you back all the way to January. We went to Cartersville. And I continue to tell people this story now in hindsight, that the folks in Cartersville, and again, this was not like his parents or relatives or anybody, but people that knew Trevor and some people that we would see and just meet, and they're like, hey, man, this guy stays healthy. He's going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. This is what they felt about him. So I'm not sure about Urban, though. Like, I'm not sure. Everything was like, I'm not sure about this Urban thing, though. You know, that was kind of the way they felt. And I think because they knew Trevor and they kind of had this perception, at least, of Urban, and everybody does if he's not coaching your team in college, like at Ohio State or Florida. People on the outside always don't seem to like Urban. So I think there was a little bit of an element, so much so that this week I got a couple of texts from people up there. They're like, see you later. You know, and maybe not even that kind. So I think it's pretty interesting to me, that dynamic. And now this is all about Trevor and which way he goes. But I just don't – if Trevor's speaking for the locker room, this isn't like a, man, I can't believe they fired my coach type of thing for this locker room. Brett Martineau, Casey Kurtz here, and they did fire the coach. I guess we haven't asked the most simplistic of questions.
Okay.
Was it the right time to fire Urban Meyer?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think now obviously Shad came out and said that they made that decision before the Josh Lambo story came out. But so selfishly, obviously we do a show on Thursdays, and then me and Brian Middleton do a show at 6 o'clock for Action Sports Jacks Overtime. And I wrote a little thing on my notes on my phone. And I was going to say the one thing you could not let Urban Meyer do after that report was A, let him talk to the media on Friday, and B, coach the game on Sunday, because they would have booed. I think people would have went to the stadium solely to boo Urban Meyer when he came out for the first time and then left. Like, that's how I think it would have happened. So I was going to say there's no chance you can let him coach this game if you're Shad Khan because of everything that happened. True or not, it appears we're going to find more about that as we go along, but I didn't think there was any chance you could let him go out there in front of your home crowd and coach a football game. So to answer your question, I would say yes.
Yeah, that's a good call. And by the way, I believe that's why this went down. We said this live on the air when it happened. And when it happened at like 5:15, the report came out on Wednesday. We said he's done. And the reason we said he's done is not because, hey, we really believe Josh Lambo or Josh Lambo's right or he kicked or Lambo potentially. It was because this is an embarrassment. That's why we said it. We said he's done. Like, you've got to find a way to get rid of the embarrassment. And so there had been plenty. And for the Jags case, whether they decided on Sunday, that's what they've said, fine. I think there's plenty of criticism around that, too, because that's odd, number one. And number two, then why wait until Wednesday midnight? Why didn't you do it Wednesday morning? Like, there's a lot of things. But I understand what's going on, and I think – by the way, I think they were thinking of it and they knew about it. And Shad Khan did tell us on last Monday, said losing's one thing, the drama's another thing. And so maybe he was setting the table for a little bit of that. But regardless of that part of it, I think the embarrassment was it. Why did he get fired? Because he was embarrassing the organization. And what would have transpired over that Thursday, Friday, Saturday into an NFL weekend Sunday is the Jags would have been headlines, Lambo, Meyer, kick, on top of more video of the bar incident, more reports about stuff going on in the building, because then the national guys would have dug even more and agents would have talked. And we had heard there was another thing coming out, by the way, on Thursday. How true is that? We don't know. But we heard that there could have been another thing. So when would it have stopped? And so I think that's what made it the right time and the right move for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And, again, I know it sounds obvious, like, yeah, of course it is. Well, did they do it too late? Should they have waited till the end of the year? I think you can have those conversations. And Urban Meyer fired like late Wednesday night. But I believe ultimately there's plenty of cause and files and HR and all those things that pile up. But from the outside looking in, if I'm owning the organization, if I say, why did he get fired? I'm like, because I'm tired of the embarrassment of it. It's one thing to lose football games, but I don't want my Jaguars to be what happened last night. They were a part of Saturday Night Live, weren't they?
They were.
Somebody said?
They're on the Weekend Update, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, was it funny?
Well, I mean, you have to make the call on that one, but,
Okay.
Saturday Night Live, not too bad.
Yeah. Sometimes funny, sometimes not. But so anyway, that's why. And I think when it happened. And they just couldn't afford another one. Here's the thing. I think Lambeau's being painted as like some hero. And quite frankly, I'm not sure if that should be the case.
Yeah.
We don't know enough about that story. Like, I don't think he got fired because of Josh Lambeau.
I don't either,
really don't.
For what it's worth.
Yeah, I don't. And I think, again, he got fired because of headlines.
Yeah.
I really do. Like, I actually think he got fired because of, in a weird way, and like the media. Like, because the media was going to talk about it. And he just does not have friends in the media. He really has nobody supporting him. And the NFL media, on top of the fact that this is a college guy coming in, and so there's no loyalty to him.
Right.
Like if take any coach, right? Take any NFL coach that's been in the league for 25, 30 years. Well, he has pockets of people that they know him, they support him, they come from a tree, all this stuff. Urban didn't have any of that. He was on an island. And so he's already this volatile guy. He's already this lightning rod guy. He comes from the college game, which I continue to tell people, NFL people consider the college game second rate. Whether they say it or not, they kind of mean it and feel it, okay? And so that part bothers people, that this college guy's coming in. And then on top of that, he's really got no allies in the NFL game other than people he's run into or leaned on, or they've come and scouted his Ohio State teams or other teams. And then you add the media part into that, from the Jay Glazers of the world to the Ian Rappaports of the world to the whoever's of the world. They have no relationship with this guy. In fact, they're more loyal to the probably Darrell Bevels and Joe Cullens and all those guys because they have experiences with them.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, that doesn't mean it's always they're going to shade their coverage or they're going to say something completely different. But sometimes you can have a little protection, in the national media because of your relationships, and it might not be as harsh. I mean, Ian Rappaport, who, by the way, got the interview with Meyer, which I found kind of interesting because I shared with you, Austin. He went on with Rich Eisen, and Rappaport doesn't usually give opinions that much. Like he's more of a fact giver, right? A storyteller. Well, his first 10 seconds on with Eisen, he's like, well, Jags need to find, first of all, a better coach.
Yeah.
Like he basically hammers Urban Meyer. And so my view of that was, that's because this guy doesn't know Urban Meyer. He wouldn't say that about another coach, even if he went 2-11.
Yeah.
But he was willing to do that. So people were willing to take shots at Urban, which I just find that part really fascinating. And then, crazy enough, he gets the interview. And did we learn anything from what Urban Meyer said to Ian Rappaport on NFL.com?
I think, first of all, it was interesting in general. If you listen to that interview, we played a little bit of it on Friday. I think it's interesting to hear somebody like Rappaport or Adam Schefter say something that isn't like breaking news. Like, that's their job. So I think it was weird for me, at least, to hear him say that the exact quote was that the Jags need to hire somebody who they thought Urban Meyer was, like a CEO type that they actually thought.
Yeah.
And he cited, obviously, coaches that aren't going to be the coach of the Jags, but Pete Carroll, Mike Tomlin, Bill Belichick, and everything. So I thought it was interesting, and he was very adamant on saying that they should not necessarily hire a young offensive coach, which we'll get into. But nevertheless, I thought it was an interesting soundbite. But, yeah, and then Urban Meyer's like, hey, this guy kind of just trashed me for like 17 minutes on the air. Let's interview with this guy. So I don't know how that comes about, but I think we did learn a good amount from the Urban Meyer. He's obviously, if you've read it, but I think for me, the most interesting thing in there and obviously he said he benched James Robinson, so that's interesting, but we knew that, is he, once again, he had been saying in his press conferences that the defense was playing well, and he once again doubled down on Joe Cullen being a good defensive coordinator and how well the defense is playing. And that's interesting to me because I think all three of us, including Austin, agree that Joe Cullen probably should have the opportunity to be the defensive coordinator for this team next year, but we don't believe that's going to happen. So I think for Urban Meyer to, again, double down and say, yes, this guy is a good defensive coordinator, which he did, I don't know if that's going to carry any weight. It probably wouldn't, but it was interesting for me to see that. Is he trying to save face? I don't know. Does he have a good relationship with Joe Cullen? I don't know, but I thought that part of it was telling when he could have just not said anything about it at all.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was a 23-minute interview or something. So here's the thing about Urban in that article. I thought he did a pretty good job of not sounding overly bitter.
Yeah.
You know, like he kind of knows he made his own bed. He's still, like, out of sorts with reality in a lot of it, in my opinion. And that is the hardest thing to figure out about Urban, and now we probably don't have to figure it out anymore, but he is out of sorts. He's just not the same guy that won national titles in college, and anybody close to him that has watched him and knows him kind of feels similar from the people I've had conversations with. So it's a weird dynamic. But what did he say? Yeah, he endorses Joe Cullen. I thought he was very good about owner Shad Khan.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that he talked because if they are going to have a little battle with the settlement contract, 4 years remaining, then why did he talk? And why would he say nice things about the organization and Shad and others? I don't know if that hurts you down the road in that. Or maybe that's just being, hey, the nice guy. We're not going to say anything that, like, triggers anything. Because he really didn't say anything that triggered anything.
Right.
And then he admits to the James Robinson mess up, which, again, he might still have a job today if he said what he said yesterday, the day after the Atlanta game, and more specifically the day after the Rams game. But he really should have done it after the Atlanta game because everybody talks about the Rams game because that's when this became a story with James Robinson. It still was a story the week prior. Nobody paid attention to it as much nationally,
right.
But it was still a story. And so either one of those Mondays or Sundays, if he had just said what he said yesterday, I got to feel like he actually might still have his job. Because I'm not sure the Marvin comes out. I'm not sure the coaches stuff comes out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It might, but I'm not sure it does.
No, I'm with you on that, and I think it shows to me at least how, and we found this out when Trevor Lawrence spoke out about James Robinson, but I agree with your point that this started all of this, and it shows the respect that I think James Robinson has in the locker room for the Jags. Not only does Trevor Lawrence know that he's one of their better players, if not best player, it appears that Marvin Jones knows that. And I'd like to believe that the coaching staff knows that. So, yeah, I think that was the start of everything, and the only regret I have since working here is when I was sitting in there in L.A. with Urban Meyer, I should have helped you press him, Brent. So that's on me. Honest mistake. Didn't want to get yelled at on the way home. Didn't know what to do, but when I was sitting there listening to how that answer changed multiple times, that I think was the first time in my head that I said, this is it.
Yeah.
He just kept saying different things to you.
Yeah, and Urban really – the crazy part about all this Urban stuff is I think what he probably will learn in retrospect, if he doesn't know already, is that this is self-inflicted. It's one thing to coach hard. It's one thing to the style of coach. I'm not sure that stuff all gets out. I'm sure there are other people that coach hard. I'm sure you're not supposed to be kicking kickers, depending on if that happened, how that happened, all that stuff. But the bar incident, obviously self-inflicted. The James Robinson that built toward this, super self-inflicted. The crazy news conferences, aloof conferences, news conferences, questions and answers and all this stuff and explanations, self-inflicted.
Yeah.
And so, like, in many – this is – like, if I'm I don't know how the legalese part of this works. It's like I think the Jags have a really good point of you fired yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we didn't fire you. You fired yourself.
Yeah.
And – I don't know if that holds up in court and all those things, but to me, that's the reality of it, is he fired himself with all the crazy behavior and things. All right, let's take a break. ESPN 690 Game Day live from the DUUUVAL house. There are a lot of toys out here. Here's what, if you get a chance and you want to come down, you get free food and drinks, and you can make some donations. Children's Home Society, we are collecting toys, unwrapped toys for them. And much of this work, by the way, done by Folio Weekly 2.0 and Phillips and Hunt and everybody else who participates. And they have a stage here, and it's filled with toys, like over 1,300 toys already.
Wow.
And they want more.
Oh,
So bring them down at the very least. Maybe drop a toy off here on this Christmas week, and that'll be distributed to the Children's Home Society, and another drop-off to a different organization on Monday night as well. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But come on down, unwrap toy, drop it off, and even if you can't hang around, just say hello and drop off a toy. That'd be a pretty cool thing to do on a Sunday morning here in Jacksonville. We talk more about the Jags, and we talk about the rest of the NFL. Who's next as the head coach of the Jags? A lot to get to here on a Sunday morning. Brent Martineau, Casey Kurtz on ESPN 690.
What's up? It's Casey of Action Sports Jacks, and I have more brand new local coverage to tell you about. Every Monday and Thursday after Action Sports Jacks on ESPN 690 from 3 to 6, we're giving you more of what you want, more Action Sports Jacks. From 6 to 6:30, myself, Casey Kurtz, and Brian Middleton will bring you Action Sports Jacks Overtime. There's a lot of topics in sports, and sometimes we can't hit them all from 3 to 6. We'll hit them all on OT. So join us 6 to 6:30 every Monday and Thursday night right here on ESPN 690.
After a long day, having my dogs greet me at the door with their silly smiles and wagging tails makes me happy. I want to keep that joy with me for years to come. That's why I trust Forever Vets Animal Hospital to keep my pets healthy. Forever Vets was voted 2019's Best Vet in Jacksonville Magazine's Readers Poll, and it's easy to see why. The affordable wellness plans are tailored to meet all of your pet's changing needs as they grow. Open 7 days a week, Forever Vets friendly staff is available to treat you and your pet with care. They combine extended hours with online booking to allow you to give your pet quality care while accommodating your schedule. Go online to forevervets.com to find which of their 9 locations is nearest you. And don't forget their newest location in Bartram Market. Forever Vets Animal Hospital, keeping your pets happy and healthy forever.
As you count your blessings this season, consider helping local kids and families in crisis through Daniel, Florida's oldest child service agency. Daniel offers counseling to abused children, connects kids with foster homes, and provides homeless teens with shelter. You can affect positive change, too, by donating to Daniel. Thanks to the Jesse Ball DuPont Fund, online donations made before December 31st will be doubled. Please donate today at danielkids.org.
Looking for a great career that can take you places? The Jacksonville Transportation Authority offers miles of opportunity, and the JTA is now hiring bus operators. We offer competitive pay and benefits with a starting wage of $16.43 per hour. We're offering hiring bonuses from $10,000 to $15,000. CDL training is available, and JTA will pay for relocation to Florida. And the Sunshine State has no income tax, so your paycheck goes further. Stop looking for a job. Get yourself a new career with the JTA.
American Window Products is committed to keeping your costs low. American Window Products will compete with any window replacement estimate you've received with their large variety of products. Schedule a free estimate at AmericanWindowProducts.com.
Wake Forest and Texas A&M face off in Jacksonville at the 77th Tax Slayer Gator Bowl game on New Year's Eve. Game day starts early with pregame brunches beginning at 9 a.m. A special tribute to healthcare heroes in the pregame show. And kickoff at 11 a.m. on Bill Gay grounds at TIAA Bank Field. Don't miss college football pageantry on display. It's all happening on New Year's Eve at the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl. Game tickets and hospitality packages start at $50 and are on sale at TaxSlayerGatorBowl.com.
Life always has its challenges, but if you feel hopeless or suicidal, you don't have to face it alone. I'm Dr. Christine Caulfield, CEO of LSF Health Systems, and our free Link to Life program can help. We'll connect you with a care coordinator who will work with you to build better tomorrows. Please take suicide off the table. contact Link to Life at 904-582-3252 or visit lsfhealthsystems.org.
Though no longer little, teens still need a lot of love. Yet teens in foster care have a harder time finding it, as 82% of foster families are home to kids 12 or younger. You can positively impact a teen's life as a foster parent. With help from Family Support Services of North Florida, you provide patience, love, and understanding, and Family Support Services will offer specialized training, resources, and a community of support. Take the next step at foster-now.org. That's foster-now.org.
Join ESPN 690 on March 5th for the Gate River Run. Registration for the 15K, 5K for charity, Junior River Run, and the Brooks Rehabilitation Mile Challenge is now open at GateRiverRun.com. Training information is available on the website. See you at the starting line.
I'm happy for the team that we have clarity, a sense of direction, and we can just go be our best moving forward for the next 4 weeks, and then we'll go from there and see what the next step is. But right now, I definitely think that we had a great day at practice today, and we're ready to move forward.
That is Trevor Lawrence. More Jags. Let's put the Jags down for a moment. We'll get back to him because I want to go with who do you now look for as the head coach, and then we still break down this game a little bit. A game that is somewhat meaningless but doesn't feel it. I think there's draft position we know is at stake, although that feels less important than it ever has. I think everybody in Jacksonville's to the point where it's like, whatever. We got Trevor at number one. That was one to play for. Sure, if you get the 2 hole, can you get one of those pass rushers? But they have so many holes. I think people – and they do such a poor job drafting most of the time that I'm not sure anybody even – is that like, oh, yeah, I get the second pick.
Yeah, it's pretty tough, yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, they have really the bigger stories. They've got plenty of holes. So there's going to be a good player, and they're going to pick in the top 5. Like, regardless of what happens, they're picking in the top 5. I think they could almost – I haven't looked at the standings this closely, but I think they could almost win out and pick in the top 5.
Yeah, I think you are correct because most teams have like 6 wins. So even if you win out, you would get to 6, and then you would assume some of these other 6-win teams would win at least one more time. So, yeah, you feel free to win all the games. You know what I'm saying? All of them.
Yeah, why not? That would do wonders.
Yes, it would.
Hey, big win for the Colts last night, and Jonathan Taylor's so good. I wasn't that surprised by that win. Now, the Colts are still a little weird, right? I mean, they looked like they should have won that game like 35-10.
Yeah.
And they still had, like, New England still had a chance. And Mac Jones, like, even he didn't play well, and yet he still battled and still looked good at times. Like, I thought this was going to be like a disaster game for Mac, and it kind of was in the first half. And he bounced back nice, so you got to give him credit for that. That didn't surprise me. I mean, the Patriots were due to lose, I guess is what I'm getting at. And they really, to me, don't feel like they're like the number 1 seed kind of good. They've played really well over the last 2 months. I just don't know who they are exactly. That's kind of the whole AFC, though, right? I mean, who's good in the AFC? The bottom line is, what we continue to learn, Jonathan Taylor's unbelievable. Is there any chance, if they keep winning late, that he gets, like, the MVP?
I think you have to at least consider it because the Colts started out poorly, as we remember, and now they're one of the better teams in the league, and they showed the comparison last night from Adrian Peterson and the other running backs that have won MVP to his, and he's right there. He is right there. And, I mean, you just beat a team that was in the number 1 seed contenders spot solely pretty much on your running game because you threw for 50-something yards, Carson Wentz.
Yeah,
so
amazing.
That alone should be something. And Belichick does not lose coming off a bye. Belichick's a defensive coach, and Jonathan Taylor was like, nah, it's okay. I'll just run all over you. So I think that alone gives him even more of a case than he already had with 4 games to go, and they got stuff to play for still. Now you're in a realistic spot, especially in the AFC, to maybe get the number 1 seed if you win out. So, yeah, I would say Jonathan Taylor has a very realistic possibility.
Yeah, I think he's very good. By the way, got 29 touches. I think it's wild to me because the AFC South has had 2 running backs now this year that were mentioned in the MVP conversation. Derrick Henry was on his way to being in the conversation and then got hurt. But he had an unbelievable first half of the year. In fact, still is ranked like I don't know, top 5, top 7, or whatever rushing yards.
I think he's 4th. Yeah.
And now Jonathan Taylor's doing the same, which by the way, like, should infuriate everyone around here, because while I'm not saying James Robinson he's that guy like Jonathan Taylor or Derrick Henry, he is very good, and they don't give him the damn ball.
Yeah.
Like, they won't give him the ball this season. He's been hurt too, but again, I don't want to misconstrue this. Jonathan Taylor looks like he's on another level right now, and Derrick Henry has been on another level. But the bottom line is those teams are not afraid to give it to their best player. The Jags have been. It should just exacerbate your furious nature around the James Robinson situation for the entire 2021 season, because I don't get it. And by the way, if they give it to James all those times, I'm not sure how many more wins they have. And they're certainly not going to knock on the door of the playoffs. They're not that kind of team. But it just, like, you juxtapose what those two backs have done and their MVP candidates versus what this guy does every time he gets the football, pretty much carrying 5 yards a carry. And you're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it kind of should infuriate everybody. Bottom line is Colts playing pretty good. I still don't know what to make of Carson Wentz, though. Is that fair? Like, I mean, his numbers look good. I mean, they're playing pretty well. He's doing enough. But it feels very blah to me on the Carson Wentz front. Like, if anybody thought he was getting back to his Philly MVP days, this isn't it. He's really just doing enough not to make mistakes. He's become a game manager.
Yeah. No, I think it is fair, because when you look at, in my opinion, obviously he throws for 57 yards. He completed 5 passes last night. So that is a game manager, by the way. He literally managed the game. But T.Y. Hilton, Michael Pittman Jr., Pascal, Jack Doyle, Mo Alley Cox, that's better than what the Jags have. And I will defend that because I believe that. So you give him decent receivers, the best running back right now in football, non-arguable because Derrick Henry is hurt. I don't really understand how you can't do more than complete 5 passes for 50 yards. So, I think it's fair. I don't know what he is either. And honestly, if you're Frank Reich, do you know what he is either at this point? I mean, 50 yards? Like, we're complaining about 112, which is bad enough. Don't get me wrong. But 50 yards? What are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's not awful, and the numbers are pretty good. But I would just say be careful with the numbers on him. I just don't know how many people are running to say, I really want Carson Wentz as my guy.
Right.
You know? But we'll see what happens. The Colts are a pretty good team. They found their way. They got past that early tough schedule. And they'll be here to finish off the season. We'll see if the Jags can play spoiler against them in this building coming up for the last game of the year in January. Remember, the season's longer than it's ever been before. And Week 15 will be pretty long, too. They'll go into Tuesday. We'll talk a little bit about the COVID changes, more about the NFL. But when we come back, we are live at the DUUUVAL House, brought to you by Phillips & Hunt and Folio Weekly 2.0. When we come back on ESPN 690, who's next for the Jags? Who do you want as the head coach? How quick will that process go? And the Jags have a chance to take advantage of a rule that exists for 2021 and maybe only 2021. It might have been a prudent move on Shad Khan's behalf to fire Urban Meyer when he did. We'll be back.
I'm Susan Appleton, owner of Appleton Communication and a Jax Chamber member. I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to serve the Jacksonville Women's Business Center on the Society of Small Businesses and to work with women business leaders in Northeast Florida. I'm proud to be a part of JWBC by offering women the opportunity to enhance their communication strategies and relationship building skills as a venture leadership facilitator. JWBC continues to innovate resources and education and provides women entrepreneurs the space to network and prosper alongside each other. This support is invaluable to women in business, and I am most thankful to be a part of it. For more information, visit jaxchamberfoundation.org.
BetOnline.net has you covered all season. More props, odds, and lines than ever before as football season continues the march to the playoffs. BetOnline.net remains your number one spot for all the sports info, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just football. BetOnline.net has up-to-the-minute info on pro and college hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, even live scores of games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline.net, where the game starts.
Hey, Ray Magliozzi here. I'd like to carry more parts at my shop, but I just don't have the room. Every time I go in the back to get wiper blades, I trip over a dusty crate of Honda air filters, then bang my head on some GTO radiator hoses. eBay Motors never has that problem. They stock all the right parts at the right prices. 122 million of them, with everything from new headlights to vintage gear shifters. I can't imagine being able to stock 100.
Broadcasting live from the ESPN690 Anajar and Levine studios. Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Call 904-600-4000. That's 904-600-4000. ESPN690. Jacksonville's home for ESPN Radio. WOKV Jacksonville. Listen live everywhere you go on ESPN690.com. ESPN690, a Cox Media Group station.
This is SportsCenter.
Hello there. I'm Mark Robbins. It is Sunday, number 15 for the NFL season. We got a bunch of games on the schedule. Tampa Bay is going to host New Orleans tonight. Tampa Bay and the Bucs have been grooving for weeks with Tom Brady, and his former team, the Patriots, of course, lost last night to the Colts by 10. So the Bucs beating the Colts a couple weeks ago, you got to look at those two teams, and it might suggest exactly what former NFL quarterback Matt Castle believes about Tampa Bay and New England getting to the Super Bowl to face each other.
Right now, being the defending Super Bowl champions and Tom Brady playing the way that he is and the group that they have down there, I'd say that they're more likely to go down and win the Super Bowl than what the New England Patriots are right now with a rookie quarterback. And I say rookie quarterback, he's no longer a rookie. He's played incredibly well throughout the course of the year with Mac Jones. But at the same time, I just feel like where Tampa Bay is versus where New England is, I think that they've got a better shot.
That's Matt Castle earlier on the best week ever here on ESPN Radio. College bowl game winners Saturday, including UAB knocking off number 13 BYU in the Radiance Technology Independence Bowl. News out of the NBA, Anthony Davis and the Lakers going to miss at least 4 weeks with an MCL sprain in his left knee. Injury occurred Friday in a loss to Minnesota. College basketball, number 1 Baylor Saturday night rallying second half to win at Oregon 78-70. Number 2 Duke with a win over Elon. Number 5 Gonzaga beats 25th ranked Texas Tech 69-55.
Coming up Monday, we're reacting to Week 15 in the NFL as teams look to clinch playoff spots and the Packers look to show they are the class of the NFC. That's Monday morning. Keyshawn, J. Will and Max on ESPN Radio.
This is ESPN 690 Game Day Live.
Sponsored by the Duval House.
Here's your host live from the Duval House, Brent Martineau.
Hey, welcome in, everybody. Brent Martineau along with Casey Kurtz here on a Sunday. Sun popping out now here in Jacksonville, and we'll see if we get a little bit of rain, but sun is shining right now, and there's like a 40% chance of rain. Get an update on that on Countdown to Kickoff coming up at 11:30 on CBS 47. I'll hustle inside the stadium. And we also, by the way, have a big day with Action Sports Shacks. We named on Friday night our Action Sports Shacks All-Prep team for the first time ever. It's high school football. Chose 25 of the best high school football players in the area. Tough list to dwindle down. But they will be here today at the stadium as well, which is cool. And we have a week from yesterday, our annual Blitzies Award Show on the TV side. So a lot of high school award shows still to come with the Action Sports Shacks team. ESPN 690, big part of our high school football coverage throughout the year as well with the Blitz Scoreboard Show and Baker Sports and the University of North Florida Ospreys. But this morning, we are here at the Duval House, ESPN 690 Game Day Live, and it's brought to you by Phillips & Hunt. And Folio Weekly 2.0 Children's Home Society is the beneficiary for a lot of toys. So bring an unwrapped toy, and the stage that we have where the musicians usually play on Sunday home games is filled with toys right now, over 1,300 of them. So just stop by, say hello, drop off a toy if you can, and they will be delivered to the Children's Home Society and another beneficiary on Monday as well. So it's kind of a split deal, and they want more and more toys if you can bring them pretty much all day long, even while the Jags are playing, if you get a chance to come on by. Brent Martineau, Casey Kurtz. All right, who's next, man? That's the story, right? Who's next for the Jacksonville Jaguars? Who's high on your list? Now that we've gotten through the urban part of it a little bit, have we been able to figure out who should be next for the Jacksonville Jaguars as the head coach?
Yeah, I think, well, what an experience we have here. It's interesting. Listening to Ian Rappaport, it makes sense what he's saying, but at the same time, you see guys like McVay, Kingsbury, get it done and have been getting it done, and the league's been going that way. The Chargers went that way. The Eagles went that way. But I agree with Ian Rappaport. I would go Doug Peterson direction. Jim Caldwell I would do before Doug Peterson. So Jim Caldwell, I guess, is the direction I would go, but I think that's the way that for this team they should look.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating right now for the Jags because, let's be honest, Shad Khan might be a little puzzled. Well, he should be a lot puzzled.
Yeah, he should be.
But, I'm even puzzled, and I think even the fan base is a bit puzzled because if you want to look at it, you'd be critical of Shad and the wins and losses and have to change and all this stuff. But he's tried it in a lot of different ways. If you want a cookie cutter, what your coaching candidate is or should be, or college, or first timer, or second time around, or czar of the buildings, coach centric, traditional GM coach relationship, Tom Coughlin, then that structure they had. I mean, he's tried a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And so I'm a little bit puzzled too. That's why I think the way to go in the NFL is to find the next best thing, the next great thing. That's why the Sean McVays of the world work, right? That's why that's fun, but it's risky. The next best way to go, I believe, is finding a guy that maybe didn't work but is getting a second chance, or maybe did work but it's his second coaching job. What did he learn from that? That's a popular style. I kind of like that. And that's probably where I fall. The next one is just go get a veteran guy that knows how the NFL works. And listen, who knows if he's like this superstar guy. He might be in his 60s, Marvin Lewis, Jim Caldwell, one of those kind of types. But at least we know he knows how to win football games in the NFL.
Yeah.
Right? And by the way, Jim Caldwell's record's unbelievable. The health stuff has to be something to do with why Jim Caldwell's still not coaching. And so that has to be on people's radar. Marvin Lewis, I feel like that was a name we talked about a little bit last year. And it's a good name. It's a solid name. It's like, sign me up for the playoffs every year, and then we can kill him for not winning a playoff game. I would sign up for that right now.
Yep.
So, but he's also been out of it a little bit. Now he's coaching the college game, so maybe he hasn't lost his touch. The older coaches do concern you from this degree. The NFL player has really changed over the last 5 to 7 years. The NFL has changed. The brand, the money, the power of the player is bigger than ever before. And so can that coach adapt? What we do know is that 30-something-year-old coach kind of grew up around that. And so that's what is appealing to those guys. So, listen, I'm fine. If they were to hire Jim Caldwell tomorrow, fine. If they were to hire even Marvin Lewis, I probably wouldn't be overly critical. I wouldn't be throwing a parade. I think, though, the best people out there right now for the Jacksonville Jaguars that make sense to me, that top my list, is somebody like Doug Peterson and Josh McDaniels.
Yeah.
I think the second go-around guy that has either done it, in Peterson's case, he's won a Super Bowl, or showed some signs in Denver in Josh McDaniels' case, but probably has learned so much over the last decade that will do him well in his next coaching stint, whether that's in New England or something like here. And by the way, they interviewed him in the past. I feel like those two guys would top my list.
Yeah, I think that's fair. If you can get Josh McDaniels here without whatever happened with the Colts, I'm with it. But look, here's what you don't do. Old college guy. Let's not do that.
Well, college guy ain't happening.
Yeah, I know.
They've wiped that one away.
So, I mean, it's such an interesting thing because you're definitely spot on about learning with the new player and growing in with the new player, kind of like McDaniels and those guys have. And I don't know, man. Like, at this point, like you said, Shad's got to be confused. We're all confused, and I think it's interesting that you don't bring up the name that everybody brings up, and that's Byron Leftwich.
Or Bieniemy,
right. And here's the thing. It's funny that you say that about McDaniels because you said McDaniels was interviewed. We know Bieniemy was interviewed. At this point, Shad's going to hire somebody that he's already interviewed, most likely, right?
Maybe Peterson wouldn't be on that list. So
that's true.
Like, he hasn't hired it. No, Leftwich he hasn't interviewed. So, I mean, he has interviewed. Yes, this was a new cycle. So he probably vetted, or could have at least, whoever's involved with this, could have vetted Marvin Lewis and Jim Caldwell last year. We had these same discussions. Certainly could have vetted, and they did interview, I think, Eric Bieniemy.
Yeah.
In the past, like Marrone hire, they interviewed McDaniels, so that was a while ago. So to your point, they have a comfortability with some of these guys. They know more about it. They should have as much research about those kind of people than they've ever had before, whether to eliminate, feel good, or actually hire. And then you throw in the Leftwiches of the world, who there's plenty of conversation about over the last few years, and Doug Peterson, who obviously has the resume that will be better than any of them.
Do you think, though, if you're like Eric Bieniemy, let's say, it feels like he's interviewed for every job that's been available, but if you're somebody like that, if Shad Khan calls you or whoever calls you, does part of you think like, oh, you didn't want me last year, but now you want me? Like, do you think that will be a problem that they're going to have to overcome if Shad's interviewed all these people already?
And for which one was that? Bieniemy?
It'd be Bieniemy or McDaniel. Anybody that they've interviewed before the last cycle, before they hired Urban and made this mistake, do you think that there could be some from the candidate now, like, hey, you had an opportunity, you missed it?
Well, I think you're talking about guys that don't have head coaching jobs, so how much leverage do they really have in that? And there'll probably be a handful of coaching jobs out there, but the Jags are going to be a pretty good one again. I mean, it's really no different than last year to this year in terms of the attractive nature of the Jacksonville Jaguars. They still have plenty of money. They have Trevor Lawrence now. They last year had the pick to get Trevor. They have a little bit of talent on the roster. It's not like Detroit's roster. And they have an owner that is pretty good to work for, and I think most people would say that. So I think there's a lot to like about the Jags' job. Now, so go back to what you just said. Josh McDaniels, the story around McDaniels when he did interview the last time, if I remember correctly, was the thought was he wanted to blow it up. And so this was coming off the 2016 season, and he wanted to start all over and blow it up. Well, the Jags were – and Shad was like, I don't know, man. We got some talent here. We might be on the verge of something. Well, guess what? Shad was right.
Yeah.
They went to the AFC Championship game that year. So what I would say more importantly, what does it say to Shad that Josh McDaniels wanted to blow it up, and the next year they went to the AFC title game?
Yeah.
Now, what I would say also is most people want to blow it up and start over because it buys them time. That's kind of a thing in the business. And Josh McDaniels wasn't wrong about Blake Bortles in the long run.
Yeah.
And the organization and the people they did hire were wrong about Blake Bortles in the long run.
I just think that I wouldn't say that Josh McDaniels was wrong coming into 17 because into 17 you signed all those free agents, including Calais Campbell. And, I mean, the reason that they were so good is because of the defense, that most of them you brought in. And obviously Jalen progressed and all that. So was Josh McDaniels really wrong, though, about wanting to blow it up? Because when he saw the roster, he didn't have those guys yet.
Well, he didn't. I mean, basically you had 3 free agents that made a difference. I mean, the whole offensive roster, well, and you had Leonard Fournette, who, again, many people. Well, here's where he was right. He would have blown it up and maybe got Patrick Mahomes or Deshaun Watson.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's an interesting conversation. And again, that's all we heard. We have no idea exactly what he said, but that's what we had heard coming off. I remember that pretty clearly. And so I think he was pretty high on the list. They like the Patriots organization, the Cons do. They really do have an affinity for that. And now McDaniels, to me, is more mature. The problem is McDaniels comes with just as many question marks. If I hire McDaniels, right, and I hire him to January 12th, and I'm waiting and wondering until he moves his family here if he's actually coming based off the Indianapolis.
Absolutely, that is a concern.
And so that is and by the way, this organization is so freaking snake bit that would happen to them too.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I don't know how you protect yourself against that, but I mean, he's never getting if he does that to another team, he's definitely never getting a job outside of New England. He already is going to have a little bit of an issue, but I think people would give him a chance. I think they think he could be pretty good. The other one you said is Eric Bieniemy. Now, Bieniemy, again, I mean, how much leverage does Bieniemy have in this? It was pretty obvious what they were doing with Urban Meyer. I mean, Urban Meyer's record, although it was a chance, is like 10 times better than Eric Bieniemy's. You know, I mean, his resume and what he did. And so I can't imagine, to your question of, well, will there be a little carryover and ill will? First of all, this Bieniemy's interviewed like however many times over the last 2 years, hasn't got a gig.
Right.
So I don't think Eric Bieniemy really has much leverage either, unless he's got 3 offers coming up this year. I do think the NFL sooner or later is going to say somebody better hire Bieniemy. I mean, how many times can this guy interview and then come back and have the second or best offense in the league? You know.
Yeah.
And I like the Andy Reid tree. I don't mind Bieniemy. I do think it's a little – Byron Leftwich and Bieniemy to me are a little bit alike. I think it's fair to wonder how much they are doing versus how much everybody around them is doing. Patrick Mahomes is very talented. That offense in Kansas City is very talented. That acquisition of talent has been really good, and Andy Reid is really good. And Tom Brady in Tampa is really good, and Bruce Arians is really good. I mean, so how much credit can we give those guys? Whereas I really think you take a look at New England, and you're like, Brent, you can say the same thing. Look at Belichick. Yeah, but I don't think you can. I mean, Belichick is the defensive guy. He's the master of it all. But there's no doubt this is Josh McDaniels doing things on offense. And he also learned around Brady, and he learned for a long time, and there was that back and forth. And now what he's done with Mac Jones this year is the most impressive job of any coach with a rookie quarterback this year. So I actually think there's more evidence to say Josh McDaniels over like a Leftwich or a Bieniemy.
Yeah,
at this point.
I agree. And another thing that worries me with Bieniemy is they don't run the ball. Like Kansas City, they drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire 32nd overall, whatever it was, a couple years ago, and I don't know if they're regretting that now, but they don't run the ball a lot. So I don't know if that falls on Eric Bieniemy, if that falls on Andy Reid. Granted, you have Patrick Mahomes. I get that. But I think the last thing we need is, after what happened this year, you bring in Eric Bieniemy, and he gives the ball like he's doing with Clyde right now. He gives it to him 9 times on average. So you give it to James Robinson 9 times, we're in the same spot because Trevor Lawrence is having to throw the ball as much as he is. The difference is Trevor Lawrence is not Patrick Mahomes yet. I say yet because I have a feeling, but I say yet. So that's what worries me there. Josh McDaniels, if you could get him to, I don't know what it would take, give him half the kismet, I don't know. But if you could, for sure you could get him here, you have to trust that over Bieniemy, I would think, especially to your point, what he's doing with Mac Jones, who, their dudes are just open. Like, their receivers are just open all the time. Some of those throws Mac made last night were questionable, but then there'd be ones where there'd be dudes wide open in the middle of the field. Yeah. That's coaching.
Yeah.
Because their receivers aren't that much more talented than the Jags ones.
I agree with you, man. I think schematically, I think Josh McDaniels doing a better job than Bieniemy and Leftwich. I do.
Agreed, because Leftwich, I mean, again, no disrespect, but Mike Evans is always open. Chris Godwin is always open. You throw it up, they're going to make a play, and it helps when you have the GOAT throwing the ball. The Patriots guys are just open. Nelson Aguilar's wide open all the time, and Mac hits him. It just happens.
Yeah, I agree with you. And by the way, they will run the ball in New England, right? They want to do that. And they run it with guys, again, you feel like you could make the running game here click. Now, again, a lot of that's culture. A lot of it's all this other stuff. I don't want to I just feel like you can give more credit to what McDaniels is doing in New England than you can to Leftwich and Bieniemy. And the guy's done it before. I like the second go-around guy. I mean, I think that's worked. If you look at the history of the game, that's worked well. Like Ian Rappaport brought up the defensive guys. Those are the legendary ones. And by the way, we don't need legendary right now. We need, mediocre freaking good.
Yeah.
I mean, mediocrity. Listen, I'm a shoot for the stars guy. That's why I supported the Urban Meyer hire. I endorsed it. I liked it. But let's get mediocre before we worry about being like a dynasty.
Yeah.
Okay? And having a Hall of Fame coach. Let's just get mediocre around here. The other one is Peterson. Peterson's intriguing. Peterson is a guy from afar, and I said this a lot, and so I'd be interested to get to know him because from afar I thought he was arrogant. I didn't think he was that likable from afar in Philly. Remember he said that thing about Marone, like in his book?
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a little bit that you kind of like about that if he's on your team, right? He's a little swagger. And guy won a Super Bowl. He did it with Carson Wentz, and he got the best play ever out of Carson Wentz. He did it with Nick Foles, and he got the best play ever out of Nick Foles. And he probably learned some things being in Philly that he could take down here, and I think he even alluded to it in a recent article. I think it was in, like, the New York Daily News. He's interesting now, and he's right down there in Jupiter, Florida, by the way, so he doesn't have to go very far. But I think Doug Peterson's – I think he's only like 51 years old.
Yep, 53.
I like that. 53?
Yep.
Yeah, I kind of like – I mean, there's a difference between like a 53-year-old guy and like the 60-year-old guy. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it feels like a lot. Like, I feel like Peterson's more hip with today's world, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that could register, and you might need that. I don't know. Like, listen, Peterson's a little risky. They're all risky. But I think at this stage, if I had to make a decision like today, I'm going with the guy that's the second time around. And I would say this, because you don't know the conversations. Peterson, I think, would jump on it yesterday. McDaniels is like this tug of war. Is he going to stay in New England? Does he want to be the next coach of the Patriots? Is he going to take over for Belichick? Does he want to get away and start his own thing? Is he going to pull the trigger? Is he indecisive in that nature that's got him doing the Indianapolis thing and wondering what's best for his family? I mean, all right, make a decision, dude.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I understand, by the way, those are big life decisions, and some people wrestle with them, and some people have real struggle with that. Like, I get it. But I don't think Peterson would be that guy. And so I think my point being, you really have to vet Josh McDaniels.
Yeah.
And who is he bringing with him, too?
Yeah,
right?
that's a good call, for sure. I think, to your point real quick with Doug Peterson, 7-9, 13-3, 9-7, 9-7. I mean,
sign me up.
Exactly. And I think the Jags signed a quarterback solely off that Super Bowl, so why not go for the coach?
Well, because that scares me more than anything. The fact that they did go after Foles probably it's interesting ties all of a sudden to the Philly organization if they were to go to Peterson, because Caldwell's up there working a little bit. If you go all the way back to Gus Bradley actually was going to be the Philly coach, and then Chip Kelly changed his mind. And that opened the door, and actually Jeffrey Lurie is the owner up there. He called Shad Khan's like, hey, you'd like this guy. And that's how Gus ended up here. Caldwell's now like in the personnel department. Minshew traded up there.
Right.
Meanwhile, after Chip Kelly got fired 1 year in, Doug Peterson took over for the Eagles. Meanwhile, college guy 1 year – well, actually it wasn't 1 year in Philly, but after Chip Kelly got fired. So college guy gets fired here in Jacksonville, and then Peterson would take over. Some interesting symmetry.
Smells like a BAM wall if he gets hired, right?
Yeah, it's a wall that says it all. And I love that stuff. That's some fantastic storytelling. And there's probably more that I missed, but Foles is added to it, of course. So all of us, there's been connections over the years to like the Ravens organization with the Jags. You have these, and like obviously Urban Meyer tried to do like the Seattle thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if Peterson gets hired, it would be really interesting to see the ties with the Jags and the Eagles organization over the last decade during Shad Khan's ownership. And by the way, I don't even think it's intentional. I think it's just kind of circumstantial.
It happens that way, yeah.
That it happened that way. All right, let's take a break. Action Sports Shacks on ESPN690. We are ESPN690 Game Day live from the DUUUVAL House and Phillips and Hunt Folio Weekly 2.0. Putting on a party once again on a Sunday Jags home game. Drop off a toy, unwrapped toy. There's over 1,300 of them. You got to come by, check out the stage. It's really cool to see on this Christmas week. And Children's Home Society, the beneficiary. So if you get a chance, even if you just want to swing on by, it's not super busy down here right now. We don't really expect it to be. It'll be an interesting crowd inside the stadium. We'll take you until 11 o'clock on ESPN 690, then over to Countdown to Kickoff on the TV side at CBS 47 inside the stadium, and then 1 o'clock kick on CBS 47, Jags and Texans. First game without Urban Meyer, Darrell Bevell, the interim head coach. What else to expect from this game? What else is happening around the NFL? We go there when we come back on ESPN 690.
Check out Action Sports Jax on ESPN 690 weekdays from 3 to 6 to get more moments like this.
But if you're going to be the CEO guy that just trusts your offensive coordinator and everybody else to do their job, when it's not working, you got to step in. I mean, that's what overseers do. That's what management's there for. Like, that's what the CEO's there for. If something's not working, then you got to fix it. Like, you have to know. Like, we can't all be sitting there in the press box and in the stands and on our couches and say, why isn't James Robinson in the game for 16 plays, but the head coach doesn't ask that question?
Now, the first alert forecast on ESPN 690.
Today, mostly cloudy with scattered showers ahead of our next cold front. Temperatures stay mild, though, in the mid-70s. An early shower likely tonight with mostly cloudy skies. Temperatures will fall into the mid-50s, but expect a cloudy, breezy, and cooler day on Monday. Highs will be in the low 60s with increasing showers later in the day. I'm meteorologist Alyssa Pedjick, and that's your Action News Jax First Alert Forecast.
The Weather Center is brought to you by Beards Diamonds, where the anniversary sale's been extended through Christmas Eve. Save up to 41% store-wide. This holiday season, the law firm of Anajar & Levine wants you to remember the reason for this season. Celebrate the love for your family, friends, and neighbors today, and truly enjoy the day and each other. Happy holidays and Happy New Year from the law firm of Anajar & Levine.
Hey, boss, did you notice the holiday decorations on your street?
Oh, yeah, it's getting to be that time of year again.
Yeah, makes me so happy I want to sing.
Uh-oh, I smell a song coming on.
It's beginning to look a lot like Crooksmas.
Nice. Packages near every door.
But the prettiest sight to me...
no safe touch signs, you see.
Do-it-yourself alarms we like much more.
A pair of houses in a row.
Do they have safe touch?
No, no, no.
So crooks like us use Crash and Smash
to get inside and take the cash.
It's beginning to look a lot like Crooksmas.
DIY alarms we love for sure.
Crooks know to stay away from Safe Touch houses. Hi, I'm Lester Jackson, president of Safe Touch Security Systems. No one beats our technology or our price.
Call Safe Touch today at 888-723-8682 or go to safetouch.com. State license number EF233.
Start your New Year's Eve early with the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl. The 2021 Tax Slayer Gator Bowl will feature a face-off between Wake Forest and Texas A&M. Kickoff is at 11 a.m. on Friday, December 31st. Tickets are now on sale at TaxSlayerGatorBowl.com.
Nights of Lights dazzles with more than 3 million lights in the historic district of St. Augustine. Now imagine doubling those lights as they reflect off the water during your tour with Redboat Tours. Avoid downtown crowds by boarding at Beach's Restaurant Marina at 250 Volano Road. Then sit back and let Captain Tony and Miss Jennifer take you on a tour you'll never forget. Don't settle for imposters. Make no mistake, Redboat Tours is St. Augustine's only USA Today Reader's Choice Best Boat Tour 3 years running. Book your Nights of Lights tours now at redboattours.com.
To celebrate State Farm's surprisingly great rates, we gave this song surprisingly great lyrics.
Hey neighbors, when your claims get hard to file, State Farm's how to switch it up style. Great rates save you cash, so if you come join us, you'll get your coins up. Oh, now you know you can save that dough, and you're covered on your ride and your home. For great service on the low, then call up State Farm. It's time to switch it up.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
Hey everybody, it's Brent Martineau from Action Sports Jacks. There's a good chance you have a smart speaker, so use it with ESPN690. Stay up to date on the Jags and all things sports by telling Alexa or Google to play ESPN690. It's as easy as that. Make sure you listen weekdays 3 until 6 p.m. on ESPN690.
Momentum's everything, and I think when you have, especially NFL season so long, a lot of ups and downs, long season, as you get to the home stretch, especially after not having a good year, you need that momentum going into the offseason, and that's just big for the morale of the team, for how you approach the offseason going into it. You always want to feel like you ended on a good note. Obviously, there's always going to be things to work on. There's always going to be areas to improve. Everyone's got their own things that they're going to look at and evaluate. But for us, if we can go finish strong, I mean, that'll be great going into the offseason, having some confidence, some momentum, something to build on, and we need that. And so we're looking at these games, I mean, like they're playoff games, every game, trying to win. Let's go 4-0.
Well, that's Trevor Lawrence, and I thought that was pretty profound, and I think he's spot on. I mean, who knows if you can really look at it like a playoff game. They're not a playoff caliber team, but I get the idea, the mentality, and can you move on and do that? And I think these games are big. Like, I really think these games have a value to them outside of a draft pick order. And the value is get this kid playing good football. Get some confidence back in the locker room and in the building. I don't think the city and the fan base is going to buy into the false confidence of a couple wins late. But I do think all the work that those guys put in and the way they think and try to believe and try to have blinders on, that these games certainly matter and a couple wins would matter. And every win matters for the Jags because it then sets the table for what you can do the next year. Like, all of a sudden, let's just say, okay, give you a circumstance. Doug Peterson gets hired. And Doug Peterson comes in, and the Jags win 2 games the rest of this year, and they go 4-13. And Doug Peterson inherits a 4-13 team or a 2-15 team. See, I think it matters that he's inheriting a 4-13 team, because now Doug Peterson can say, okay, this team with all that mess won 4 games in the NFL season.
Yeah.
And if we just do some things, add some talent, and make this culture a little bit better, like a tolerable workplace potentially, well, who's to say we can't at the minimum get to 7 wins? And maybe it's 8. But if you have 2, it's really hard to get to 7 or 8.
Yeah.
You know, that's a big jump. And most teams can't do that. So that's where I think it's a subtle thing, but it heads you down the road faster. And I think that's a valuable thing. It's something we've really talked about a lot this year. And I agree with it. I believe it. I think the wins matter more than draft position if you want to get down the road with this organization. Yeah, you can go from 2-15 or 3-14 to a 9-win season. It can happen. But it just seems like in the history of the game that it's more of a methodical build in the win column than that. So I think that's where these games really matter. And plus, we oversay the word narrative, but you want the story to be a little bit different around Trevor Lawrence than it is right now. I don't think his career is doomed. I think he will get a lot better. I think he will be a lot better. But we had an offseason of hope of what this young man could be. He is everything of that as a man, it looks like. But as a football player, it's been very challenging. And the numbers are never going to look good now, no matter what he does in the last 4 games. But they could look better. And if we can sit there and say in the last 4 games, Trevor Lawrence threw 10 touchdowns, 2 picks, and got a couple wins, well, I'll help sell that down the river. I'll help that one now. I mean, because that would be good. That would be good. It's how you finished is a little – and then you know what we could do? We could say, well, the rest of that was urban, toxic, all this stuff. And so, Casey, I believe that these games are meaningful for a lot of different reasons. It's not going to salvage anything or save the season, but I think these games are really meaningful.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. I think it worked out well that when the schedule came out, we said the early part you had to win some games. Obviously, this went out the door very fast, don't get me wrong. But we said you have to win some games early on. The middle was going to be tough. And then again, towards the end, you might have a chance to win some games. And I think your point is a valid one that the wins mean more than the draft position and all that with that on board. But I think it helps greatly that you're playing Houston, you're playing the Jets, and you're playing the Colts, a team that, like we've said all week, you somehow always split with, and you lost the first one. So I think if this was a stretch that you're playing, like if this was when you had to go to Seattle or go to Cincinnati, they would still be huge games, but I think we'd look at them differently. You can beat the Jets, you can beat the Texans. You have a better quarterback, in my opinion, than both of those teams. You might have a better quarterback than the Colts, too. That's still up to be decided, but these games are big. These games could be won. And for Trevor Lawrence, I think, to your point about the stats, over the offseason, doesn't really matter what happens here. National, if they talk about the Jags and Trevor Lawrence, they're just going to look at the stats, and that is what it is. So you have to live with that. That's why, for a fan, it's important to see it on the field and keep that with you versus what the stats may end up being.
Yeah, big 4 games, I think, and it starts today in Jacksonville against the Houston Texans. Brent Martineau, Casey Kurtz, ESPN690 Game Day live from the DUUUVAL House here at the foot of the Hart Bridge. We do this every Jags home game, brought to you by Phillips & Hunt and Folio Weekly 2.0. COVID has really messed up the schedule again, or has it? Did it create a better situation for the NFL? The NFL now playing football a lot over the next week with this moving around of games. Casey, give us the latest on where these games have moved to. It should have been 2 games yesterday. There was only 1.
Yes.
But now Monday and Tuesday will be busy, and we'll get a lot of football over this stretch.
Yeah, a lot going on. So, yeah, we were supposed to have the Raiders-Browns yesterday. Selfishly needed that game to be played because Nick Chubb was pretty much the only active offensive player for the Browns. Have him in a different fantasy league, but that's not really the point. They will play tomorrow at 5. And that will lead into the Vikings-Bears, the originally scheduled Monday Night Football game, which will be on ESPN690. And then you've got on Tuesday, the Washington football team will play the Eagles. They were supposed to play today. That one gets moved along with the Seahawks and the Rams. What I don't understand is both of those games will play at 7 o'clock. I don't know if that's going to change or what. I don't know why they would, when you really don't have any reason to rival each other. I don't know why they're going to, but both of those games will play on Tuesday, and then Raiders-Browns will be tomorrow at 5.
And then what's next week's schedule is like what? Wednesday is no game. Thursday we do have a game,
yep,
right?
So you have the last Thursday game of the season, I believe, which will be the 49ers and the Titans, which is interesting. And then you go back to Saturday. You'll have we're supposed to have the originally scheduled 2 games on Saturday, and then you'll go back to the regular slate on Sunday, and then again, obviously, on Monday.
So they are playing a couple games on Christmas Day?
Yeah, they are. That'll be the Browns-Packers at 4:30, and that'll be the Colts-Cardinals at 8:15. So back-to-back weeks, the Colts will play on Saturday. By the way, both those games will be on ESPN 690.
All right, good deal. There's your NFL slate. I mean, I don't know. I don't have a major problem with what they did. I get, like, the Vegas here's the thing. I understand the Las Vegas Raiders fans I understand the concept of, hey, we did everything right? Mm-hmm. And we're not, and we have 0 cases, and now we have to move our game. You said it was going to be a forfeit. But I don't say this from the NFL, the money, even the fan perspective. I say it from a competitive standpoint. Really, it's like, did the Browns or one of these other teams do anything really that wrong? Like, a lot of them are vaccinated. There's this new variant. It seems like it's even creeping into the vaccinated people, and the numbers go a little higher. And again, maybe they did do it wrong. But from a competitive-only standpoint, I don't want to win a game by forfeit. I want to go play. So if 2 days later it's better to have more people because you have a roster now rather than 25 guys that can't play.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I just don't have that big of an issue with it. Yeah, they kind of screwed the Raiders, but do I have that big of an issue? Not really. If you're just if you're not associated with either of the teams and you take away your blinders and your goggles for them, I think it's a fine thing.
It's interesting, I think, because I feel that, look, if you're the Raiders, I think you have a strong case. Like, and you can say your point is a valid one, the right, the wrong. That's fair. I don't know if that's an argument, but look, at the end of the day, the game was scheduled. The rules were made. The Raiders are ready to play. And look, the Browns could have fielded a team, which probably isn't the best thing to say, but you're punishing the Raiders for literally doing everything correctly. They did nothing wrong in this situation. And to me, guess what? The Saints are going to play football against the Bucs tonight without their coach. And somehow that's okay. But the players, like when you have a certain amount of players, then it's not okay. Like at the same, like it needs to be fair. And if I'm the Raiders, I'm furious. I couldn't be more mad because, look, we're ready to play and you're not. That's unfortunate, but we didn't do anything wrong here and we're being punished for it, and you put us at a disadvantage because now we're catering to them. And and the game's on the road also. So you still have to go to Cleveland 2 days later. It messes everything up in your personal life and everything. So I just think something different should have happened.
Well, I wonder what I'd really be interested just to add like a cherry on top of all that is what's the weather forecast like today versus like 2 days from now?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, yesterday versus when it's being played.
We'll work on that.
So I'd be curious, like all of a sudden now it'll be like snow and wind, and now the Browns favor, it just favors the Browns big time.
Looks like yesterday we had 30s in Cleveland, and then on Tuesday it looks like there's going to be sun. So
no, really, it might be better for Vegas.
Maybe. Still, I don't think it's right.
No. Listen, it's certainly a debatable thing. They're changing the rules.
Yeah.
And now they just basically said, hey, we're not going to test any. You don't have to test if you're vaccinated. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, they came out with these new protocols because they don't want to start moving stuff around.
Yeah, and I think that's just – if you're not going to stay true to your word, then I guess keep breaking the rules, right? If you're not going to forfeit these games, then sure, don't test people that are vaccinated. But it's just another thing that when you look at the NFL and it's like, well, are we surprised? No, we're not.
Yeah, by the way, we're going to get into this in other situations, too. I was talking to somebody yesterday about, like, college basketball, and the conferences have essentially said going into the year, like, hey, if you can't play, that's on you, and you forfeit.
Yeah.
But because of this recent jump and spike, and it's expected to be even more of one, there's talk that they may actually – some of the conferences may say, wait a minute, now we got to look at this again. Because it might not be your fault necessarily. It's not like something you did, like you mismanaged it. It might just be – hey, this thing is spiking again. So it'll be interesting to see how people I do think it is a fluid thing. I mean, nobody thought we'd still even be here, or I didn't, or I'd hope not. But here we are still. All right, so that's the situation with the league and the schedule. The good news here, a Jags game is taking place. Some people would say that's good news. I say it's good news. It's Sunday in Jacksonville, starting to build downtown. Be interesting to see what the fan turnout is. Beautiful day to watch football right now. I don't know. We'll get some rain chances, but it's not a washout, and the sun keeps peeking out, and so it's a good day to be down here. Once again, Children's Home Society benefiting from all the toys being dropped off. We've got 1,300 or more unwrapped toys already on the stage here at the DUUUVAL house. Come on by, drop a toy, even if you're not going to the game. But if you are, just bring one by, say hello. All afternoon, too, not just until the end of our show at 11 o'clock. And Children's Home Society is one of the beneficiaries. Pretty cool to see all those toys up on the stage. But it's going to be an unwrapped toy. You know how it works, and help support the cause here on this Christmas week. ESPN 690 Game Day live from the DUUUVAL house. Brought to you by Phillips & Hunt Folio Weekly 2.0. All right, Casey, this is where I hand off to you.
Yep.
And you take it from here. Obviously, big storylines in Jacksonville. Urban Meyer gone. Urban Meyer discusses being fired with Ian Rappaport of NFL.com. Darrell Bevell takes over for the second year in a row. Did I already ask you this? Like, has it ever happened in NFL history where the coach took over on an interim basis 2 years in a row, and especially for two different organizations?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. That's got to be a first. I'm not, big research guy, so I don't know if there's somebody that can research that one, but I would have to imagine Darrell Bevell is in uncharted territory right now.
Yeah, I would think so too. How's this football team going to play today and now these last four games, and Trevor Lawrence especially? Can we see him start to elevate? Because I will say this, we've seen his leadership elevate over the last week and a half. Now can he get the play to follow it as well? Something to watch this afternoon. I'm running inside. We've got countdown to kickoff 11:30 on CBS 47. Then we have our post-game show on the Action News Jax app. We're going to be talking about a win today for the first time in a long time. And then we have Action Sports Jax primetime, 10:30 on Fox 30, 11:30 on CBS 47. We do it all again tomorrow, 3 o'clock on ESPN 690 with Casey and Austin Lane. Have a good football Sunday. Casey takes it home from here on ESPN 690 when we come back.
Jeeps, Chevys, Fords, Hondas, Toyotas, and more. Toyotathon is on, including all makes and models at Arlington Toyota Pre-Owned. Arlington's got 300 used available. Plus, you'll buy with total confidence thanks to Arlington's 30-day exchange program that comes with your purchase. That's 30 days to love your purchase or exchange it. Toyotathon is on, even on used at Arlington Toyota. Shop in person, 10939 Atlanta Boulevard, and online at arlingtontoyota.com today. Visit arlingtontoyota.com/Toyotathon for full details.
In today's world, there's a lot of ways to know what's happening. At Action News Jax, we make sure our local stories have more detail, so you get every angle that impacts you. We dig for answers because you deserve the whole story. Taking time to provide context so you're clear on what's really going on. Because we know information is thrown at you 24/7, and we want you to know that Action News Jax is local coverage you can count on.
People are still hesitant to come to the shop.
We built a place that people could come and join and meet each other and talk to one another.
Small businesses are the heart and soul of a community.
Hi, I'm Congressman Neil Dunn.
And I'm Leah Dunn.
During these times, it's important to support your local small businesses.
They're the core of our communities and keep us connected.
This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Tobacco-Free Florida has many free ways to help you quit nicotine. From free 2-week starter kits of quit aids to free cessation services like Phone Quit and Group Quit. We're even trying out new motivational tactics, like 80s rock anthems.
The time is now, and I'm so proud. You're the greatest quitter of all. Tobacco-free, won't you believe? You're right there where you wanted to be. You're staying strong, you're standing tall. You're a quitter on a mission to be. You're the greatest quitter. He's tobacco's greatest quitter. You're the greatest quitter. He's tobacco's greatest quitter of all.
Ah, cool. Lasers. Yeah, that's awesome. Maybe we'll just stick to the ways we know work. Visit tobaccofreeflorida.com or call 1-877-YOU-CAN-NOW for free nicotine patches.
Start your New Year's Eve early with the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl. The 2021 Tax Slayer Gator Bowl will feature a face-off between Wake Forest and Texas A&M. Kickoff is at 11 a.m. on Friday, December 31st. Tickets are now on sale at TaxSlayerGatorBowl.com.
Bono's Pit Barbecue. Yeah, it's good. It's more than food. It's about the flavor, the tradition. It's barbecue, and it's who we are at Bono's. Locally smoked since 1949. Almost 20 locations around Jacksonville. On the menu, smokehouse stackers, sandwiches, salads, sides, and Bono's family feast. Bono's Pit Barbecue. If you don't see a pit, it ain't legit. Authentic traditional Southern barbecue. Feel the flavor, feel the community. Bono's Pit Barbecue. Yeah, it's good.
Obviously, this year's been, I wouldn't believe you if you told me this is how this year was going to go. But, like I said, I've learned a lot, and I still feel that way. Obviously, me and Marissa have come to love Jacksonville, and that's our plan. Like, let's go turn this thing around. Let's go become a winner. Let's go win some games, get this thing turned around. I have full faith in that still. Obviously, there's a lot of steps to be made in the future to go in that direction, but I still believe that, and I plan on being here for a long time, hopefully my whole career, whatever the future holds. I know I'm just going to be the best I can every day, wherever my feet are.
Trevor Lawrence, not a lot of winning on the field this season, but as we break down here, it seems like every Monday and every Wednesday after Trevor Lawrence hits the podium, how good he is speaking and telling it how it is for the most part. But that right there, I'm not a big win the press conference guy. Brent Martineau is, by the way, on the way to the stadium. Countdown to kickoff, 11:30 on CBS 47. I say this every week, by the way. If you see Brent trying to get from the DUUUVAL house inside the stadium, please get out of his way. Again, not on entitlement. He's just in a hurry. Got a lot to do. Anyway, back to Trevor Lawrence. Brent likes to say Trevor wins the press conferences. Austin doesn't love the whole winning the press conference thing. I think that quote that you just heard is a big one. Obviously, sure, you can say whatever it is you want to say. And the popular thing to say would be what he said. He wants to stay here his whole career and that. But I believe him. There's no reason to not believe him. And I think it was telling early that he said him and Marissa, his wife, have come to love Jacksonville. And that's a good thing for the city because no matter what the numbers say right now, this is a guy you want associated with your team, with your city, and hopefully with a win today for the Jags. ESPN 690, Game Day Live, sponsored by the DUUUVAL House. Brent Martineau was at the DUUUVAL House, like I said, on the way inside the stadium for Countdown to Kickoff at 11:30 on CBS 47 with the entire Action Sports Jax team, Stuart Weber, Marcel Robinson, Olivia Tassley as well. We got a couple more minutes right here on the radio. Casey Kurtz with you. What do the Jags have to do to win a football game today? The Texans, obviously, in a similar situation to the Jags, except the Texans, nobody expected to win any football games. They've all of a sudden won two of them, one of them in week 1 against the Jags, in which Trevor threw the ball way too much. Not his fault. You do what's called if you can't check out of the play. But nevertheless, they asked him to do too much. And what you do today is pretty simple. We've talked about it. I've said it a bunch, and I'm going to say it one more time. You run the football. If you're Darrell Bevell, obviously we talked about it on Friday a little bit. Even in his time with the Lions, obviously you may remember a play he might have called when Russell Wilson threw an interception in the end zone to lose the Super Bowl. Darrell Bevell called that play. He does not call a lot of run plays, but if you're Darrell Bevell, you see how that's worked out for you this season. The answer is not well. You look in the mirror and you say, I'm indirectly going to blame everything that happened with James Robinson on Urban Meyer, and I'm going to run the ball 20 times. I'm also going to throw it to him 5 times out of the backfield. Give him 25, give him 27 touches, and see what happens, because last week, like I said, Seattle ran the football all over the Texans. It is something you can do, and that's how you win the game. Trevor makes plays in between, and you have an opportunity to win your 3rd game of the season. We got a lot of other stuff going on around the NFL. We'll get to that in a second. But I want to talk some fantasy directly involving this game, and it's involving Brevin Jordan. Number 2 complaint. First complaint, Urban Meyer era. I didn't love when they picked Travis Etienne. That's when I thought something was up. When they picked Luke Farrell over Brevin Jordan, I was disappointed. Brevin Jordan had a good career at Miami. No disrespect to Luke Farrell. He's on this team now. But Brevin Jordan has been coming on in the last couple of weeks. He's a quality option this week for DFS. If you do that, that's daily fantasy if you didn't know. He's, like I said, he's been coming on. And the other thing, I hate to say it, but this Jags defense is good. I believe they're better than average, I would say. Don't sleep on Davis Mills. He's had decent games this year. He throws it around the yard. Davis Mills, don't sleep on him today, especially with the connection to Brevin Jordan. Let's look around the league. We got the Titans. We got the Steelers in Pittsburgh, the 9-4 Titans, the 6-1 Steelers, which is weird. Titans still pretty much playerless. Julio Jones will be out there, but we've learned he's pretty much a non-factor this season. That'll be an interesting one. Fantasy purposes, daily, especially Deontay Johnson. Got to play him if you can get to the salary. We got the Panthers. We got the Bills as well in the 1 o'clock schedule. Bills need to win some football games. They are at home. Panthers just looking to play spoiler in this one. The Bills have had it rough this season. Obviously, when you lose 9-6 to the Jags, that's never a good thing. Hard-fought game with the Bucs last week. They lose it. Lose to the Patriots in a game nobody could throw the football at all. Just get absolutely manhandled by the Colts. Bills were supposed to be a Super Bowl team, especially if you ask Brent Martineau. So Bills need to show something. Bills need to win this game big at home over the Panthers. Obviously, we've spent some time talking about the Jags and the Texans. Spread, by the way, 4.5. Jags are favorites, which is something, especially the week that your head coach is fired. Obviously, a lot around that, but 4.5 is a lot of points. You got the Cowboys, you got the Giants in New York, or I should say New Jersey. Don't overthink it, folks. Daniel Jones is out. Not that that really matters at all. Cowboys will win this football game. Lions, Cardinals, another one not to think too much about. Cardinals will win this football game. Quick note, fantasy-wise for that one. TJ Hawkinson. It is the fantasy football playoff, so if you hear somebody's name that you may have had on your lineup, take him out because TJ Hawkinson had thumb surgery. He will not play again this season. DeAndre Hopkins will also not play again in the regular season. So if you have those guys in your lineups, you take them out and you replace them with, well, for the Cardinals, A.J. Green has an opportunity this week to step up and be a number one receiver. Amon-Ra St. Brown for the Lions has been getting a ton of targets without TJ Hawkinson. He is a receiver, so you can't do the even exchange right there at the tight end spot, but Amon-Ra St. Brown is a guy to look for this week in fantasy. Jets, Dolphins. Dolphins all of a sudden, and it's been a steady build. They are up to 6-7, winning a lot of games in a row. Panthers, Giants, Jets, Ravens, Texans. That's 5 in a row. They've got the Jets, Zach Wilson, thankful we have Trevor Lawrence. Let's just put it that way. We go to the 4 o'clock window. You got the Bengals. You got the Broncos. Interesting game, one we picked on Action Sports Jacks on ESPN 690 on Friday. We do that from 3 to 6 every single weekday. Give me the Bengals in that one. I think the Bengals have something to prove. The Broncos do as well, but the Bengals are explosive, and you can't really say anything explosive about the Denver Broncos. Falcons, 49ers, don't overthink it. Falcons got to go all the way out to San Francisco. They will lose that football game to the 49ers. Big one at 4:25, Packers, Ravens. I believe the Ravens will be Lamar Jackson-less, and if you weren't going to do it already, take the Packers in that one. On Sunday Night Football right here on ESPN 690, you got the Saints and you got the Bucs in Tampa. I've mentioned this. The Saints will be without Sean Payton, which is, if the NFL is going to postpone all these other games for COVID issues, then, hey, not having your head coach, I think the Saints have an argument to make there. But that one won't get postponed. That one will not change. The Saints will play the Bucs tonight at 8:20. Again, don't overthink it. But I will say this. Tom Brady has been brutal against the Saints since joining the Bucs and in general. He has more losses against the Saints as a member of the Bucs than against any other team, I do believe. So that is an interesting side note to this one, but the Bucs should get it done. Tomorrow, we've got a doubleheader. We got the Raiders and the Browns moved from Saturday to tomorrow. We're still not 100% sure who will suit up for the Browns in that one, but we know it should be more than they did have. Kareem Hunt won't play. Nick Chubb will be the feature back. Kareem Hunt will be out due to injury. Vikings-Bears tomorrow night, the originally scheduled Monday Night Football game. ESPN 690 to hear that one. Then on Tuesday, we got the doubleheader at 7 p.m. for some reason. Not really sure why they're at the same time, but I don't make the schedule, folks. Washington football team and the Eagles. Seahawks and the Rams, 2 good ones. Eagles need to win because they had an opportunity to potentially make the playoffs, but you lose to the Giants, you're probably in trouble there. It looks like Jalen Hurts will be back. So got to win that football game over the football team. Seahawks, Rams got to win. Take care of business at home. That's the schedule for the NFL this week. You got football. You had it on Thursday. You had it yesterday. You have it today, Monday, Tuesday. Take Wednesday off. Don't worry. Just enjoy your Wednesday. Come back on a Thursday for football. Come back on a Saturday for football. Christmas Day, by the way. You can hear those games right here on ESPN 690 on Christmas Day if you so choose. We're out of here on this one. Another edition of ESPN 690 Game Day Live, sponsored by the DUUUVAL House. Brent Martineau on the way. Countdown to kickoff. CBS 47, 11:30 before the Jags game. And 4.5 points, folks. You heard it here first. They're going to get the bump. Everybody said it. I'm saying it. I'll eat it if I have to. Jags are covering. Jags are winning the football game. Jags are covering 4.5 points. Trevor Lawrence going to throw some touchdowns. James Robinson, do I say, is going to get some carries? I do say. Play him in fantasy if you can. We appreciate you listening. We'll be back at 3 o'clock on Monday. Austin Lane, Brent Martineau, myself will be here. Me and Brian Middleton will be here at 6. We'll go till about 7 o'clock. Action Sports Jacks overtime. We appreciate you. Have a good Sunday. Enjoy the football.
Looking for a